So I'm Samuel, and then on TikTok I am Susubox. So, yeah, yeah, Susubox, like money box. Okay. So on November, I think around 18th, I got a call from my brother's wife that he fell to his back and hit his head against the ground. Actually, my brother wasn't that weak, so I didn't really believe it. But then, when we got to the hospital, it was unfortunate. He had to sit to get infusions. There were no beds. And then, upon asking, they said we'd have to pay money to get bed for him. So after he came out of unconsciousness, we were discharged to go home because there were apparently no beds for him because we didn't pay for it. Through that, we kept fighting for healthcare for him because he still complained about headaches and all that. So at some point, we had to take him back to the hospital. Back and forth, we got transferred. But then even before the transfer came, the referral came, we called for it, and then the hospital told us that if we are not taking the hospital's ambulance, then they're not giving us a refer. So we had to get it from the hospital, and then actually, with Ghana Ambulance Service was charging 600, but then the hospital was charging 1,800. We had no option that we had to take him. So we took him to Cath. And then at Cath, it was good. We all felt that he was going to get better because, the healthcare was more intensive than where we came from. But unfortunately, we realized they'd tell us to go get drugs. We would get them, bring them, and then by the time we realized the drugs were gone, they were lost. So I was like, what's going on? So I've never experienced this, so I thought they were administering the drugs to him all this while, until a doctor came through to ask where the drugs are. I said, they've given it to him. He said, no, they haven't done that. It was then that another person came to tell me that they steal drugs here, be careful. If you don't protect your drugs, they're going to take them all away. Actually, it was very perturbing hearing that, but then at that moment, it was already done. Through the healthcare, we were taken from the emergency to the D ward. At the D ward, it was hectic, actually, because every time you would ask to see a doctor, you're going to be denied. There are times nurses would take your number and they're going to be like, go, when the doctor comes, I'm going to call you, but then you're going to wait all of the day. Nothing is going to happen like that. I remember once I asked the nurse, what's going on with my brother? And she said, you sound very educated. Why don't you use the internet? I'm like, come on. I can't use the internet. There are doctors over here. Why do I have to use the internet? But then, it is what it is. Nobody was ready to listen. I didn't understand. It got to a point where I had to fight doctors over that because you'd ask a doctor who's around your brother, like, what's going on? And he's not talking to you. I remember I told the man, boss, I beg give and take, because what's going on? I don't understand. Yet we were through. It got to a point where we noticed nothing was happening. His health kept deteriorating over and over again. Another problem, we as relatives of patients don't really have a place to stay at the hospital. I understand the healthcare system doesn't warrant patients' relatives to stay with them, but then I also understand that this is Ghana and the system is different, where because you would have to do things for your patient, your brother or your relative laying in bed, you still would have to get a place to stay. But then, no, we stay, we live and sleep at the car park. So when all the cars are gone in the night, you come, you unfold your mat, and then you lay on that. I remember once we were there, and then in the morning, we woke to another relative dead beside all of us at Cath. Yes, because there's no place for us in the cold, in the midst of all the mosquitoes and all that. It looks like nobody cares about it. And apparently, we don't blame the system because it looks like that's what it is. If you're here, you're born here, it looks like that is the situation you have to go through. I very much remember anytime it's raining, you'd have to fold your mattress, pick it up, and then there's no specific place for you to stay for the rain to finish. You'd have to stay somewhere, find somewhere to stay, and then when it's done, you come back, unfold it, and you sleep. That's what we're going through as patient relatives. I understand it's not just me. Every other person who's experienced this would attest to that. I'm not lying. And, sometimes too, there are people who would think you are just talking too much, but Until they experience it, they wouldn't believe it. It got to a point where I was tired and I felt like my brother should die, so I leave the hospital. And not just me. I know many other people who felt that way. Yes, on the 26th, he died. And then we had to leave the hospital. Actually, I'm only asking if we could make the health system better, if only we could put things in place right, if only nurses would understand that patients' relatives need to know what is going on, if only doctors would attend to us when we ask questions, maybe we would be better. If only maybe there's going to be a body which is going to call patients' relatives and tell them, this is what's happening, these are the possible solutions, these are the probabilities and all that, maybe they would feel more better than just going about working and all that. Sometimes, the man just talked about our labs. It's very sickening to realize that every lab we're going to take, you'd have to go out to get it. I very much remember when we got to Cath and then we had to take an MRI scan. The scan was supposed to be taken outside for a charge of like 3,600 something. I went out to get a sample, but when I was coming back in, I saw an MRI, something like this. I went in there to check and ask if we could take an MRI. They said, yes, you can. I brought my brother there and we paid 2,001. It hurts. Nobody understands why this is going on. Why doctors would refer you to go out to get the scans instead of getting it in there. But somehow, the answer the man gave makes sense somehow, because if the machines are broken, they could be in their office, but then they wouldn't work. This is my fair share of healthcare in Ghana, and I hope it gets better someday. Thank you.